I'm now really pleased to welcome our third speaker to the stage, and that's Caroline Carter. Caroline recently joined ULaw at the London Moorgate campus as the campus dean. As the first member in her family to go to university, Caroline will describe her journey from a state comprehensive school in the northeast of England via London University and ULaw, formerly known as the College of Law, to the city as a law firm partner, a non-executive, and now in her second executive career as dean of a leading law school. So welcome, please, Caroline.
Okay, thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed those first two speakers today, and in many respects, the previous speaker sort of echoes what my journey was like many, many decades ago. Because I suppose, as you can guess from the introduction I've had from Patrick, that I'm actually quite a senior individual. I'd like to think that the world has changed, and I'd like to think that we can, all of the people on this event tonight, will be part of being change agents going forward. So as Patrick said, I was born in the northeast of England to, what would be described as a working class family. My father had kind of, white collar aspirations, but started off as an article clerk when you didn't have to go to university, and then he digressed because of what was then national service. Never ever went back and went into, I suppose, what would be described as a white collar job. But we were very firmly in a working class environment, and my parents fell on hard times at a certain point and went their own separate ways. I was always in a state school, and when I was finished the sort of the comprehensive system at 16, I actually went to a sixth form. Not a sixth form college, but a sixth form attached to a school. And that was really the first time that I understood where I sat in the social firmament, because a number of pupils who came to that school were from the private sector in North Yorkshire, who would come in because of the quality of the teaching. And it had a twofold impact on me. It led me to feel ambitious because I saw all these people around me who wanted to apply to Oxford and Cambridge and Russell Group universities. But I also understood my own limitations. People would talk about having seen all of the Titians in the world, and I thought, who is Titian? And so I did general studies A-level because that helped me find out who Titian was. But I felt really quite discombobulated. I'd always had a job since I was 11 years of age. I always had a weekend job and a holiday job. And that's part of my own drive for success in whatever I do. I like to be very busy, and I like to be very, very engaged. So I found my way to London University. I was offered an opportunity to do Oxbridge had I done what was then 7th term Oxbridge. My family just thought that was a crazy idea. You either do it 4th term, i.e. no time off, or you don't do it at all. So that opportunity passed me by. So I went to London University, to a small college called Westfield College, which then is now part of Queen Mary. And I had a great time, but there was no law faculty there. And I read English, I loved words, and I had no reason to think that people didn't think people with accents were all equal and equally bright. But I did come across some discrimination about the way that I spoke. Whereas, I'd studied English. I thought some people have spoken Old English and Middle English. Why is there any discrimination as to how you actually speak? But I soon cottoned on to that there is a way in which to try and get ahead. But it's actually quite hard not to speak just the way you've been brought up. We all pick up habits and affectations from the people who we mix with. That's all part of, mixing with lots of different tribes. But it's very important that you can actually be yourself. So, come the end of university, it was a very grim time down south as well as up north in the mid-80s, and there was very little opportunity in terms of trying to get onto any form of graduate scheme. And I felt I wanted a job where I had it was a profession. I felt that would make me safe. That's what my family thought. If you were a lawyer or a doctor, you would have a job. It was a profession, and you would have career security. So I applied to the College of Law. And I applied also to bar school, and I also applied to do a PhD at Oxford, and I was offered a place at Oxford to do a PhD, and I had to turn that down, and that was the hardest letter I've ever written in my life, because that's what I really, really felt I wanted to do. And my family said that was not going to be a runner. My father was very ill, and I had to basically get myself into the workforce. So I went to Chancery Lane. My father passed away in my first year, which was then doing what was called the CPE, now it would be the GDL. And I pressed on and I did the exams and I got through, and I thought, well, I'm this far through, I'll keep on going. But just like the previous speaker, I was surrounded by people who'd already got their training contract or their articles of association because they'd applied, 2 years before, and they knew lots of people in all these firms, and I had no idea what they were talking about. But I wrote my letters and I got all my rejections, but you learn an awful lot through going through that experience. No experience is a bad experience at all. So I kept on going, and what you learn as a lawyer is you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you listen far more than you speak. And I overheard someone in my CPE class who had got a training contract, but she didn't actually want to take that contract for lots of various personal reasons, and she didn't want to be a lawyer. So I knew that in the middle of a cycle, that firm would have unexpectedly a vacancy. So I wrote to them and they asked me in, and the rest is history, because that's where I went to do my articles, had an absolutely brilliant time, met amazing people who are still friends of mine today, and I'm still in touch with my first principal, who really put me on the straight and narrow of how to behave in an office environment as someone who's at the very beginning of their career. I then moved on to Linklaters, and then I spent, a considerable period of time there just watching and learning. Fantastic firm to go as a junior lawyer and look at all the amazing, clients they have. I found Linklaters a very meritocratic place at the time, quite unexpectedly so, but I really did feel that it was very much a level playing field, and we're talking decades ago now. Again, I've got some great friends from there, still friends today. And then I was offered an opportunity to go to Ashurst, and if I'm frank with you, that's probably the place I felt the least comfortable to begin with, because back when I arrived there in 1992, they had very few women, and that there were they sort of perhaps recruited from a particular talent pool. But, I'm not someone who abandoned ship, and I ended up staying in that place for almost 25 years, becoming a senior equity partner there and leading a very big department and having a number of major roles within the firm, including on the integration committee that actually merged the firm back in 2013. So I stayed there until 2016, and I took my accrued sabbaticals. And then I've actually then progressed onto a non-executive career focusing on education. So I sit on the board of a postgraduate university called Cranfield University, which has a business school, and then it's all sciences and technology. And then 2 social mobility charities, one that I'm incredibly proud of, the Brilliant Club, which identifies, children as young as primary school who have got great and curious minds, but very little social capital, and helps them on their journey to guide them towards the opportunities that could lead to going to an elite university, whether it's here or in the US. And I do have a similar role on an adjunct charity called Access Ed, as well as actually being a governor at an all-girls state school, non-selective school in northwest London, again, where very bright girls, but they don't have the connections that other people have. They're incredibly capable, and to my mind, this is their moment that employers are outward looking now, and they're wanting to diversify as far as possible. So today I've actually been on a talk with the Social Mobility Commission, and the person chairing that was the CEO of the Sutton Trust, and he was actually on the board of the Brilliant Club up until last month. He was one of the founder trustees there, and he actually recruited me to the board. And I listened to what they talk about, these 7 pillars that really hem people in and make it very difficult to actually lift themselves up in a social sense and actually access the jobs and the lifestyle and the security for them and their wider family that they would like to have. A fantastic panel of people today, and there are no easy answers, and they looked across the 4 nations that we live in the United Kingdom. And there are many different tests of whether you fall into a category that would require any form of assistance. Some people will have been on and off free school meals. Some families will be on universal credit. There'll be single parents. There'll be both parents working, but in very, very insecure jobs. But what I would say is, we can't dictate where we are born in the world. We're given this gift of life. We land where we land, and we're lucky where we land. And, in this country, there are many obstacles for people, but you can actually navigate your way through. And there are lots and lots of avenues now where you can actually find help and chart a path to try and get you to where you want to be. You don't want to spend the rest of your life sitting out and being defeatist. You want to get up and join in that dance. And why not get up and have a go? I wanted to try to be a lawyer, and, I had a go at it. And let me tell you right now, I am not a straight A, grade A, flawless CV person by any stretch of the imagination. But all of the qualities that I have gathered, like moss on a stone from all of the experiences, have helped me be very resilient and overcome some extreme personal and professional challenges. Because being a lawyer, it's not an easy ticket to a great, wonderful life. You will face many, many challenges in that role, from clients, from peers, from opposition. The hours are very, very tough. The judgment calls are, are very intense that are made on you. You're not almost right in the law. You've got to be right. You've got to be on the winning side, and someone has to be on the losing side, and you've got to be able to adapt and cope with that. So where does that all take me? Well, I had my period of kind of semi-retirement, but because I've always had a job, really under cover of the pandemic, I felt very motivated to want to do something. I felt that I wanted to be part of this great surge as we reboard the world after COVID. And this opportunity came up, which, in many respects, it's just a very unexpected but dream job for me, because it's a wonderful confluence of, my passion for education, my desire to help people be as successful as they possibly can be, and my previous, background of 30 years in the city as a law firm partner. And I think it's a great privilege to be able to be here and to be able to meet with students like all of you are on the call tonight, to try and help, to help you find your way through and get to the best position that you can be. So much of this is about opportunity. I've seen so many people with great backgrounds and from great families in terms of financial support and social support, but who do not like what they find on the other side of big law, or indeed any law, and then they go off and do something else. Personally, I think when you're from a working class background, you're not a quitter. You know what you want to achieve, and you're prepared to ride through some of those tougher times in order to get to wherever the top is for you. And it's not always partnership. And now there are many, many other routes that people can take within law firms, within big corporations, within small charities. There are many, many roles for people with great governance experience and a legal training. So I don't think it's a time for people to feel defeatist. We've come through a difficult time with the pandemic, and it's not over yet. But the law firms have done incredibly well, and they will all be recruiting, and they will look for people who have shown some resilience, who've had the part-time jobs, who've been able to get back up and dust themselves down and start all over again, because that's part of the ups and downs of life. I don't feel, do I feel embarrassed about where I'm from? Well, sometimes, and sometimes my children tease me about it, and they will, if I say something in a particular way, they will repeat it back to me. Yes, they're very shocked when I show them where my grandparents lived, because they think, wow, that's a really tiny house. And I think, well, that's where a family lived. And that's true for so many people. But aren't we fortunate that at where we are today, and it could all be taken away in the blink of an eye. And I think you should never become complacent about what you've achieved. I was a law firm partner, but that's not who I've described myself as for the past 4 years. And it's actually quite liberating to say, and, this is the new person I am, and this is what I'm now doing, and to try and chart a different way. As I say, for each and one of you out there, if you actually want to try to be a lawyer and you feel you've got the intellect to get through those exams, there are no barriers. It's only the voice in your head saying, I can't do this, it's too scary. Well, tell me now, there are lots of scary things in life, and that should not stop you from having a go. So there are many, many challenges that you're all facing at the moment, and I completely appreciate that. But when someone offers you a bit of advice or some time, seize that, because what you'll find inside any form of law firm, no matter whether it's a high street firm or a big city outfit, Time is very, very precious, and people don't give it up easily because it is their currency with clients. So if someone offers you some time and some advice, seize it and use it well. Go along with the 3 points you would like to get from a meeting with them, or 15 minutes or half an hour with them, or over a cup of coffee. Three pieces of advice and one thing that you think you'd be able to give them back in return. Because what I have found at this grand age and stage in my life is that there's nothing like a bit of reverse mentoring. I get so much out of, younger people telling me things I should be doing with my life. And in fact, on the Brilliant Club, we brought in a young trustee, and I am now her mentor, but she's equally giving me some reverse mentoring. So I don't think you should see yourself as not having something to offer, because you have an awful lot to offer. I think, as Sam said right at the outset, all of those part-time jobs that you have had, when you sit down, they will have produced for you some extraordinary transferable skills. You won't recognize them, but if you've been in hospitality, you'll have dealt with, customer confrontation, trying to manage a situation. There's many skills that you don't even recognize are incredibly valuable in a law firm and in a client relationship. So I want you to feel positive. We've all had our ups and downs, and I've had far more years than many of the audience have had to have many ups and downs. But what's the option? The option is you either bow out and you go and do something completely different, or you find a way through. Law is a fascinating world. It is fast moving. It's based on case law, statute, policy, regulation, the way people are thinking. You never have an opportunity to be bored. Boredom would just be it would be a 5-minute gift you could give yourself. It just doesn't happen. It's fast paced. You're meeting lots and lots of different people. And what I would say is there'll be many people like all of you who are in that client base. The client base isn't all blue-blooded members of, the aristocracy. They're self-made entrepreneurs. They're business leaders. Some of them have not been to university. Very proud of that. I've found many ways through. And there'll be aspects of you that will chime with them. They will help you to rub along with, their more blue-blooded advisors. And that's how the dance goes. So, my abiding really piece of advice to you is, if you want to do this, please have a go. Take all of the weapons that ULaw has in its armory, whether it's the employability team, mentoring, whatever, and just go for it. I was the most scared person on earth. I was terrified of debt. I was terrified of failure. You just have to live with yourself. The debt is a tax on your future success, and failure does us all a big dose of goodness, because it keeps us real, it keeps us grounded, and it keeps us striving. You can't take more than one job at a time. So the fact you get 10 rejections doesn't matter, because you can only actually take one role, and that one role will come your way. And from there, you will navigate your path. So I hope I've shared some tips and tricks. Remember, if someone offers you time, you take it and you use it well. Don't give up. All of the jobs you've done will have given you fantastic transferable skills. And, for some of you who have a protected characteristic as well as the social mobility angle, that's a very complicated journey to travel. And if I'm honest with you, I think for me, the social mobility, although I didn't recognize it at the time, was actually far harder than just being a woman. So that's really what I'd like to leave you with this evening. I would like to end on a very, very positive note. And please get in touch, seek help. You've got the benefit of the internet and research to help you polish yourself and your CV as best you possibly can, and just keep on going, because it can be a fun and a very, very long and rewarding career. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Caroline. It's good to sort of end on a real sort of positive note there as well. And thanks a lot for being so open and honest with us about things as well. I think you've mentioned some really great programs out there. So I think, going back to what Leah was saying in terms of things needing to start earlier, I think with the Brilliant Club and other things, I think that's starting to happen. So there's some really positive things that are happening that is hopefully shifting that dial, and will be there to sort of help colleagues go forward as well. And I suppose for you, it's still never too late as well for you to think about that PhD. I was looking up there. There's still an opportunity there for you. Challenge yourself.
I have to say, Patrick, when I was doing my application for this role, I found all the paperwork.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Caroline.